be starting with in this unit. All right, we want to perform any operations we are given in complex numbers. First of all, we know that square root of a -1 is the complex number we are talking about. And so we have, suppose we have square root of -9. We have to do some arithmetic, separate 9 and square root of -1. And then find the square root of 9, which is 3. So we have plus or minus. This is a complex number, so we have plus or minus 3i. So for any complex number we have, we know that the plus or minus make them conjugates. They are conjugates. Okay, so -2i multiplies 7. If I open this parenthesis here, I have -2 times 7, which is 14. And I have I. If I multiply -2 multiply -5, negative is positive, and I have 10i squared. All right, so now I have -14i, and I squared is -1. I squared is -1. See, if I have square root of -1 here, if I square it, this will cancel this. I have -1. Okay, so I have -10 remaining here. So my answer, and I have to write my answer in standard form. The standard form of a complex number is a plus bi. A is the real part, b is the imaginary part. Therefore, writing this in standard form, I have -10 minus 14i. It is now in standard form. It's now in standard form. So that's number 1. Okay, so that is number 1. And let's go to number 2. We're not going to do all of them. This is homework number 1. So let's go to number 2, still on complex number. We already know that when we have square root of a negative number, it's complex. So in this particular case, we have square root of 4 multiplied square root of -1. And the square root of 4 is 2. Square root of -1 is I. So our answer is 2i. So that's how to multiply complex numbers. And let's go to number 3. I have write the number without a negative radicand. Okay, so I will go. Radicand is the number in front inside the radical sign. Whenever you're told to write the number without a negative radicand, so you want to factor out the negative sign in the radical. So I have negative outside, square root of 19 multiplied by square root of -1. So I have factored out the square root sign, and I took away the negative number. And this is the same thing as I. So now I have, I can rewrite it in a different way, negative I square root of 19. I want to write it in front. So I have written it without negative sign. The same thing with number 20. Same thing with number 20. So, I mean, number 4. So factor out this and find all other factors of, so what I have 4 outside minus square root of 20 multiply square root of -1. And I can also factor out what is inside this radical sign, the radicand here. So I have square root of 4 times 5 multiplied by square root of -1. So I already know that square root of -1 is, this is I here. And I can factor out for square root of 4 times square root of 5. Square root of 4 is 2. So I have 4 minus 2 root 5. Okay, and this I here, I can write it behind or in front. So my answer is 4 minus 2I root 5. I have written it in standard form where the real part is 4 and the imaginary part is 2 root 5. 2 root 5 is the imaginary, negative 2 root 5. Negative 2 root 5 is the imaginary part. Okay, so we can now go down and do some other manipulations before we go to unit 2. We can be told to add or subtract. If I'm told to add complex numbers, I will add like terms. So I add real parts to real parts, imaginary part to imaginary part. So if I do that, I have -9 plus 1. And then I have 5i plus 4i. And when I finish, I have -9 plus 9i. Actually, I have -8 plus 9i because I added. Okay, so written in standard form, I have -8 plus 9i. Okay. Now if I'm multiplying, I can still do FOIL. So let's multiply. Right here, I'm multiplying complex numbers. So first, outside, inside, last. Okay, so let me do the multiplication. -2 multiply 8 is -16. -2 multiply I is -2i. And then I'll add the other one. 4i multiply 8. 4 times 8 is 32. So I have plus 32i. 32i. And then 4i multiply 1i, I have 4i squared. We already know that for I squared is -1. So we can rewrite that right here. So I have -4 because I squared is -1. So collect like terms together. This and these are like terms. So now I have -16 plus 30i. And -4 and -16 will give me -20 plus 30i. Okay, so that is my final answer. That's going to be my final answer. So the same way you're going to multiply whenever you are told to multiply. If you are given the roots of I to power n, you already know that I squared is -1. So I squared times I squared is I to the 4th. So -1 times -1 is +1. Therefore, I to the 4th is equal to 1. So if I to the 4th is equal to 1, I want to break this into, so I can just put here I to power, I can just take away 3 from here, so I have 84. So I to power 84 multiply I to power 2. This I to power 2. Then multiply I to power 1. I to power 2 is negative 1. This one right here is I. These are multiples of 4. This is going to give me 1. So my answer is going to be negative I. Negative I. So anytime I'm given multiples of I should be able to simplify it. Okay, and here I have I to power negative 10. So first of all, I will have to do 1 over I to power 10. So it's in the denominator. Then I can change it into, so I now have 1 over I to power 8, which are factors of 4. Okay, then I have I to power 2, multiplied by I to power 2. I to power 2 is negative 1, so I actually have 1 over 1, and then here this is negative, so answer is negative 1. All right, so the same way is the way you're going to do the other ones. We can go to more practice test. This one, so let's go to practice test for unit 2 and find all the, do some of the problems in I before we go to quadratic function. Before we go to quadratic function, so I am going to practice test 1. Practice test 1. I mean practice test 2, unit 1 practice test. Okay, so this is unit 2 practice test. What I'm looking for now is all the questions in terms of I. So I'm going down to see all the questions in terms of I to solve them. All the questions in terms of why I. Okay, so I see one. Number 13 says, for the given complex number, state the real part. So the real part is 7. The real part is 7. So A is the real part, 7. State the state the imaginary part. The imaginary part is 10. It doesn't contain I. And identify the number as real, pure, imaginary, or non-real. Okay, so this is imaginary. This is imaginary. So now we go to look for another number that has imaginary numbers. Question that has imaginary numbers. Okay, we have done number 9. So factor the so we have I to power 8 multiply I to power 8 is a factor of 4. So my answer is going to be 1 here. So my answer is going to be actually I in this question. All right, so this time we go to practice test 2. So we're going to practice test 2, homework for practice test 2. Okay, it's already open. Okay, so I'm looking for 3.2. All right, so this question says, for the quadratic function defined, write the function in vertex form. Write this function in vertex form. By the way, which one is vertex form? This is the vertex form of quadratic function. Anytime you see y is equal to coefficient into x minus h all squared plus k. So that is the vertex form of any quadratic equation. where hk is the vertex. So we are given this function and we are told to write it in vertex form. So let's start. Let's write that function in vertex form. In other words, rewrite this equation, quadratic, in this form. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is change the constant to the left. So plus 6 on both sides. So I have 6 plus p of x is equal to x squared minus 4x. Okay. Now the next thing is find the middle leading coefficient of the linear term divided by 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So I am going to add plus that negative 2 here squared. And I'm going to add plus negative 2 here squared. Whatever you do to the left-hand side, do it to the right-hand side. Simplify. So this is 4 minus 6. I have minus 2 here plus p of x. Right now, I will take one each of the square sign. So x minus 2 squared. Okay, so at this point, I will transform this constant term back to the right. So I'm going to do it right here. Therefore, I have p of x is equal to x minus 2 all squared plus 2. Okay, so now I have transformed it to the, I have transformed the equation to vertex form where h, this is h here, and k. H is 2, k is 2. Therefore, the point 2, 2 is the vertex. We can check that. So let's check that with calculator. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. Go to y equals. I'm just going to clear. Go to y equals. Clear. And then I will put the equation I'm told to transform. And that is x squared minus 4x minus 6. Okay, and then I can just graph it and see the vertex. So I can just put the graph and see what the vertex is. Okay, so what is the vertex? So let me ask my calculator. Second calc, and the vertex is the minimum number. So I'm going to check 3 on the left hand side, yes, and I'm going to check the right hand side. And that is left hand side. If I click, my answer is going to be 2 negative 10. So 2 negative 10. 2 negative 10 is what my calculator gave me. My calculator gave me 2 negative 10. So let's go back here and see. Let's go back here and see. Okay, so we have, and by the way, let me go to, okay, so we are 5 here.